All right, hey guys, we are in our last final week of school. This is your very final unit, last one. You are done after unit 15, and then if you still have anything, turn in, get it in as soon as you can that last week of school. So this is it for you guys. We've got 15.1, 15.2, and 15.3, and then you are done. So 15.1 really isn't anything new or earth-shattering. Some of it's a little bit of review, but we are going to need a solid foundation on these concepts in order to move on to 15.2. So 15.1 starts out with solving proportions, okay? These notes are available in the office too if you want to go pick them up already printed. The most common method of solving proportions is we typically will use cross multiply. So you've learned this method. I am just here to remind you of what that means. So here we have a proportion right here. X over 22 equals 5 over 8, and we want to solve for x. So to cross multiply, that's what we do. We literally go cross or diagonal, and we multiply those together. So I need to know what is 22 times 5. I've got my calculator here, and we get 110. And then we go the other direction. We multiply this direction. 8 times x is 8x. Now it's just an equation. How do I solve for x? Divide by 8. And x is equal to, what is 110 divided by 8 is 13.75. And that's what x equals. And that's all there is to it. These should be very familiar to you guys. But just in case, we had a review here. So same thing here. Want to solve for x. X is in the denominator. Doesn't matter. He's going to come out when we cross multiply. So this direction, 19 times 2 is 38. And then I go the other direction, x times 15 is 15x. How do I solve for x? Divide by 15. This one I can't do in my head. What is 38 divided by 15? It looks like I get 2.53 if we round to 2 decimal places to the nearest hundredth. Okay, hopefully you guys have that down and you're prepped. All right, now we're going to move into solving using inverse trig functions. You use this a little bit in Unit 14 when you solve for angles, all right? But just to clarify as to how we actually use it in an equation form, we're going to go back to just basics, you guys. Very, very basic. If I have x plus 3 equals 5, okay, yeah, you go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, you can. X plus 3 equals 5. How do we solve for x? So we're relating back to the basics. We would subtract 3 to both sides. Why do we subtract 3 to both sides? Because right here, if I want to get rid of an add 3, I know to subtract 3. These are called inverse operations. Inverse operations undo each other, or essentially they're going to cancel out, leave me just with x on this side, but whatever I do to the left, I do to the right, which is why I have the minus 3 over there. We're going to use the same concept when we do trig functions. And we're going to use their inverse. So just a quick reminder, if I have cosine, its inverse looks like this. Cosine with a little negative 1. We read that cosine inverse. Okay? We have the sine function. Its inverse is, that's right, sine inverse with that little negative 1. And we have tangent function. Its inverse is, looks like that, tangent inverse. So in order to undo a cosine, we use cosine inverse, or to cancel it to get rid of it. Okay, so remember that as we look at these functions right here, these equations. I have the cosine of x is equal to negative 0.24. I want to solve for x. My goal is to get this x all by itself. What do I have to get rid of? I have to get rid of a cosine. Well, how do I get rid of a cosine? What do I use? Cosine inverse. Now with these inverse functions, there is one thing, that they always have to be the cosine inverse of something. These trig functions, you take it of a number, so it always goes in front. When you do the plus 3 and then the minus 3, you can just tack on a minus 3. But with the inverses, it always goes out in front. So we're going to write cosine inverse out in front because I want to take cosine inverse of cosine. And same thing over here, I want to put it in front of it. So I'm going to throw it in like here. So it's cosine inverse of negative 0.24. Now look what happens over here when I take cosine inverse of cosine. They cancel. That's what we want. We want to have x all by itself. And then what's left over here? Cosine inverse of negative 0.24. I've solved for x. This is the answer, except we want that answer to be in a final form, so we are going to go to a calculator. If you have your own calculator, all you need to do is go find the button that looks like cosine inverse. If you do not have a calculator handy, there are lots of online ones. I found one that is just pretty easy called calculator.net. So if you need just a quick, easy one, go to calculator.net. On my phone, I have to come up here and click on scientific. If you use your Chromebook, it automatically gives you the scientific. And see those inverses straight across there? That's what we're going to use. So to find cosine inverse, I literally tap the cosine inverse button. Now if you look up here, it doesn't actually look the same. When I push that button, it changed. And it says arc cosine. That is the same thing. It's just another way to write cosine inverse. Cosine inverse is the same as this arc cosine. So don't get confused there. They do mean the same. Okay, so I do cosine inverse of negative 0.24. For this calculator, I have to type in my 0.24, and then I have to hit the negative button. It won't allow me to type a negative till after I get the number in there. And then hit equals, and there's my answer. Now this answer is an angle that's in degrees, because, now that's another good thing, double check that your calculator is set in degrees and not radians. We're not doing radians, we're doing degrees. So my final answer, x is equal to, we'll round this to 2 decimal places, 103.89 degrees. And that's my answer. That's how I solve for x. Okay, let's try another one right here. 0.367 equals sine of x. Okay, what's my goal? Get x by itself. Remember, this is an equation. What do I need to get rid of? I need to get rid of a sine. So I'm going to use its inverse to get rid of it, sine inverse. It goes in front, so I'm going to write this sine inverse in front. But whatever I do to the right, I do to the left, and it goes in front of that number. These two cancel, leaving me just with x equals sine inverse of 0.367. Go grab your calculator, and I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to hit sine inverse of 0.367 and hit equals, and I get, round it, 21.53. And again, this is an angle, so what should we put? Degrees. It's an angle measure, 21.53 degrees. Okay, not too bad, right? Okay, let's try number 3. Same concept. What is my goal? Solve for x. What do I need to get rid of? This time I have a tangent and I have a 15. I have to get rid of both of them, okay? Order of operations says I would get rid of the 15 first. How is he connected? Right now he's connected by multiply, so what would I do? Divide both sides by 15. That gives me tangent x equals, now you can go to your calculator and do 11 divided by 15. Here's the problem. I get a big long decimal. You have two options right here. You can write the big long decimal, 0.73333333. We're not going to round till we get to our final answer, till we find x. So yes, you would have to write the whole thing. Or, better yet, if it doesn't divide into a nice even decimal, just keep it a fraction. Just write it as 11/15. Then I have an exact answer when I do my next step. Okay? So check the calculator. If it comes to a nice decimal, sure, write the decimal. If it doesn't, just keep it in fraction form. Okay, now I'm solving for x. What do I do to get rid of tangent? I do tangent inverse. Whatever I do to the left, I throw that in right here to the right. These cancel, leaving x equals tangent inverse of 11/15. And that's what I'm going to type in right here. Okay, tangent inverse. Remember the calculator says arctan. It means the same thing. Tangent inverse. And I'm just going to do 11 for fraction. I'm just going to use the divide button. Divided by 15. Hit equals. And my answer is 36.25 what? Degrees. And that's my answer for that one. Okay, you guys getting this? We're going to try one more. Just make sure you have it down. Okay, how do I solve for x? My goal is get x by itself. Got to get rid of the sign and this negative 20. Okay, order of operations tells me get rid of the negative 20 first. So they are connected by multiply. So how do I get rid of it? Divide both sides by negative 20. Okay, that's gone. Let's check. Does this make a nice, does 17 divided by negative 20. Is that going to give me a nice decimal? Oh, I hit plus. Don't do plus. Do divide. Where's divide? Divide by negative 20 equals, oh, it does. So because that's a nice neat decimal, just go ahead and write it. Could you leave it in fraction form? Yes, you could leave it as 17 over negative 20, and that would be just fine. Okay, negative 0.85 equals sine x. How do I get rid of sine? We're going to take sine inverse of both sides. This one cancels, leaving me with x equals, okay, sine inverse of negative 0.085. So let's do it. Sine inverse of, now I got to put in my 0.85 and then hit the negative if you're using the calculator.net. There are lots of online calculators out there. Find one that you're comfortable using and use it if you don't have your own at home. All right, the answer for sine inverse of negative 0.85 is a negative 58.21. What? Degrees. Is it okay to get a negative answer? Yeah. What does that mean if I get a negative answer? It means if you were counting on your unit circle, remember your unit circle, how do you count a negative degree? You just go this direction. Rather than going up, we head downward. It's okay to get a negative answer. All right, that's the end of 15.1. Good luck, you guys. The assignment is on Canvas for this one.